Hey guys, I'm sorry that if you saw the first one of these, I screwed it up. So that's why I'm live streaming because I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, I wanted to talk about starting YouTube and why people my age just turn away from me when I talk about it. It's like they don't want to talk to me. They think I'm crazy, and I don't think I am. I have had a lot of starts and stops in my retirement because I get bored pretty fast. And even though I'm working as a nurse, my brain is always looking for something new and exciting to do and share. And I've always wanted to be able to tell people all the things that I've learned in my life. And not because my life is any different than anybody's, but because it is very different than anybody's. To start with, I actually was born in South America and I left there when I was 4, and we moved to Miami, and, I was fluent in Spanish as a 4-year-old. English was basically our second language. So it was interesting to be in Miami, but I don't wanna go in that anyway. What I wanted to talk about is why people my age don't wanna talk to me about my YouTubing. And, I kinda think if you're my age and you don't have a passion for something, um, you kind of feel a little triggered when somebody else your age is totally, passionate about something. My advice to you is find something to be passionate about because this is the last quarter of your life and it's time to actually take everything you've learned and share it with other people. Um, I I've been, doing many things in my life, but my primary job, I would say paying job, would be to say that I'm a nurse, and, I was a nurse for 50 years. I retired, lasted 6 months, then went back. And, you know, it's it's just fun. And I just happened to be working with a group of people at a hospital in White Salmon, Washington, and they're like the greatest group of people I've ever worked with, and I'm not lying, this is the truth. It's it's the team, the team, we are it. Uh, so anyway, and as a result of it, the reason for it really is we've had a lot of things growth together, through COVID for one, and then through a new surgeon for another, and a new CEO. And through it all, we've been able to just really be supportive to one another. And what does that look like? It looks like excuse me, whether someone is having a bad day or not, they will respond to what is going on for you. And that's kind of the heart of who I am. I wanna be able to help people to feel good about themselves. It's just who I am and what I've trained myself about. And, so throughout anybody's bad time, if I'm able, I will always reach out to them in sometimes very subtle ways to just let them know that somebody else knows that they're in pain or that they're having a bad time, or is there anything I can do? Not in a big, let me, buy you lunch or let me pay your mortgage. Nothing like that. Just that we care about one another. And ironically, we still party together. It's kind of crazy. Uh, so that's one thing that makes my life over 70 really valuable is that I have that. But I was wanting to do something else. I wanted to share the stuff that I know. And mind you, I have a lot in my repertoire of life because I've been single. And one of the things that's advantageous of being single is you can choose to do whatever you want. So I've chosen to travel a lot, with friends, by myself. I have taken probably hundreds of programs about self-esteem. I was trying to think of all the programs I've been through, and it's like I can't even think of them all. Um, like the first program that I took outside of nursing was I think I joined a women's group, like, back in the late '70s. It was kinda unheard of, and the woman that orchestrated it was a lawyer who had thrown her arms up after a couple of years in law and said, "I am not doing this anymore." So she was teaching people how to write books and just, uh, how to be kind to one another. From there, I I went many years struggling through nursing, and when I say that, I mean, not that I wasn't good at what I did, but the cleft in what's happening in nursing today and in medicine, I was aware of it back then, and that was really hard because unbeknownst to me for quite some time, I was pretty, am intuitive, and so I was feeling all this stuff that I couldn't really enjoy, and, so but I stayed with it. It was very, patriarchal, and when I first became a nurse, we had to get out of our chair to let a doctor sit if he came into the nursing station. It was pretty weird, and, and there were things that happened that just didn't always ring well for me, but I didn't have a voice, so it was really hard. I didn't have a voice to say, "Excuse me, but that's inappropriate," or "That's not right," or "I question what you're saying," or maybe look at the literature. All these things. I didn't have a voice back then, and so it took me years to get that voice, and I think the big point was when I think I was in my late 40s. I went to a Tony Robbins event. Actually, I listened to a Tony Robbins tape while I was traveling across the country, as a traveler. And while I was doing that, I had Getting the Edge, which was one of his tape series. And I was so excited about what he was saying because I actually felt like, wow, he knows me. He hears me. He knows who I am. And I would pull off the highway, take notes like a crazy person. But by the time I got to Florida, I had a goal. And that goal was the next time I saw that he was going to be live, I was going. And so the next year, in excuse me, in I don't know, it's 6 months. I would do 6 month stints. So in that next 6 months, I was traveling back to California to work in San Francisco. And as I drove into San Francisco, big as life was this poster of Tony saying that he was going to be in San Jose. So I signed up for that. I went to that and then progressively stayed in that organization for another 10 years. I became a senior leader. I did events all over the United States and Fiji. Um, and all because I was trying to find out who was I and how could I contribute what I knew because I had grown up being told that this knowledge that I had, that I was trying to be bossy and that I was, my mother called me a know-it-all. Well, what if I did know stuff? That was what I was trying to say is maybe I did know stuff. And I learned from that environment that indeed I did have a repertoire of information that I had accumulated over my life that other people wanted to hear and wanted to know about. And most definitely people really who, you go into this environment, nobody knows your history, nobody knows who you are, nobody knows anything. But when you become a volunteer or a crew member or a senior leader, which I did, you become an authority on a lot of stuff and you don't know that like people would ask me like I was somebody who knew something. And I, for the first couple of events, I was freaking out because I think, I don't know anything. I'm not that smart. But over time, I realized that I did know something and I did have value and I did have something to share. And literally, I tried my best never to have to not do the fire walk. I did the fire walk a couple of times, but to actually orchestrate it because we would have 26 to 50 lines of people going across trainers and senior leaders were responsible for getting those people to get across there. So I always had an excuse for not running the fire line. And I would say, oh no, I'm on the medical team. I can't do that. And so I ended up uh, one day being told, no, you're running your own fire line today. And it was like the most amazing thing you could ever imagine, because these people were coming up in what we call in flow, or in ready uh to go across the fire, and I was sending them across the fire. And after the first few, all of a sudden I was sending them really fast, and like, they believed me. They looked in my face and I said, go, just go, and they would walk across the fire. And there's nothing like it. It was just like, oh my god, people were actually listening to what I had to say. And then the next thing that happened is that as senior leaders, we were also responsible for being the dancers on the stage, something I also did my best to not do, and I would hide if I could. But, the trainers had their own ideas, and they were like, you get up there. And I can't tell you, I was so nervous that there's always a trainer out in front of you, and they're always kind of looking up and reminding you, and they would be reminding me to smile because I was in shock. I was in shock. Ugh. But the thing I got out of it was that I got why rock stars loved being in front of crowds, because in that environment on the front stage, and you're singing, and the vibration of the whole room is so high and happy, and they're singing songs that we all love to dance and sing to, and they're all aiming all of that energy to the front of the room, which is us. And we were getting the room ready for Tony to come in. It was phenomenal. It was really phenomenal. And so I didn't mind doing it every once in a while, because again, I'm an introvert, and so, or I was. Think I still am in some ways, but it was an amazing event. And anyone who is at least, if you're at least interested, in the very least interested, you should go to an event, a Tony Robbins event. He's a phenomenal human being, like nobody's business. He's amazing. Anyway, so that was my second big training. And while I was in that, I decided to become neuro-linguistic program trained. So I became a neuro-linguistic programmer. And then I decided to become master prac. So I did that. And so that was the other training. I did coaching training. And all the time I was doing that, I was still falling back on nursing, because I thought that's the cheapest and easiest way to do it. And not cheapest, emotionally cheap way to do what I love doing. But it was also a big cop out. So eventually I started doing some private coaching, and then I kind of got lost again. And, then I wanted to travel. And so it just, I am a fine procrastinator, but when I got into YouTube, I don't get to procrastinate. My coach doesn't let me procrastinate. I don't want myself to procrastinate. So I make my goals a lot smaller. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just don't make them so big, because I remember in the beginning, I was like, I am never going to do videos. I am never going to do videos live, because nobody wants to hear what I have to say. And I've done over 200 videos now, and I intend to do a lot more. And I know that people want to hear what I have to say, and people, they just want the opportunity to speak out. And so the people that comment are, I just love it, because they're actually finding their voice in it. Um, so, so I got into YouTube, and the funny thing is really and truly, literally, my brother and sister-in-law, who are one of my closest friends, they don't even know what I do. I mean, they don't have a concept. I mean, if they use YouTube, it's to watch a movie or to look up how to cut flowers, or the usual things that we used to use YouTube for all the time, but not for that that learning about our own lives, or learning how to live our lives. and tools, which is what I love to talk about, is tools that we can use to feel more complete in the way that we work with people. So yeah, yeah. So my beginnings were meager, and they're still totally a work in progress. I have one that's I'm working on right now that my I'm having a tough time syncing, so it's I have to wait. So I thought, well, let's try a little live stream and see what happens with that. Anyway, this is Sis Ahern, and love you dearly, and hope you're having a great day. And thank you for listening. If you did, uh, later.